you stumbled into a podcast. It's probably not your daddy's podcast because he's still listening to Howard Stern on some satellite radio, whatever that is. Nope. You stumbled into the Binge-Watchers podcast with yours truly, Johnny Spoiler. I try to only spoil movies that I actually like. Joined as always by the effervescent. Is that a good adjective?
I like effervescent.
Effervescent.
Yeah.
Scream queen herself, Jordan Savage. I went off book a little bit. Usually I say exactly the same things. Now I've offended Howard Stern and his fans. Whatever. Whatever. It's a joke. Look up the dictionary, dictionary.com definition of comedy, parody, joke. A real truth is that I have no problems with Howard Stern. I'm just he's in the headlines. Of course he's in the headlines. He's Howard Stern, but he was in the headlines recently. Some bogus headlines, and so I just thought I'd bring him up. Anyway, I digress. Tonight's cold open is not about Howard Stern. It's about bedroom habits. Bedroom habits of the average American. It's Weird Movie Month, and tonight's is like I don't know. The internet describes the movie as a thriller, but I didn't feel like there was anything. It's not a thriller. It's a relationship movie. Anything, we could have put it into like our relationship movie month. It was a candidate for that at one point, but we slipped it in to Weird Movie Month because depending on your type of sandwich that you eat would determine whether or not you like the taste of this movie or it's not on your palate at all is the best way to describe it, I think. Anyway, I'm just running out the clock because I was telling Jordan pre-show, although I probably shouldn't have said Howard Stern because I'm sure he's on the no-no list of like blacklisted keywords for the
Already
internet
flagged.
Algorithms, right?
Yeah.
Like Google's probably like, you can't say Howard Stern. YouTube's probably like, you can't say Howard Stern. Everybody knows that the magic of tricking the algorithm on YouTube, if you're a YouTuber, is don't swear, don't say anything bad, don't talk about horror movies in the first 30 seconds to
No naughty stuff.
Airtime. Yeah, no potty stuff in the beginning. Save it for the middle of the show.
No naughty stuff.
So, compiled by like Vice Media, the Kinsey Institute, and one hell of a Google search, we put together some of the top fetishes by the average American. Coming in at number one, multiple partners. Those would be scenarios with your polys, your unicorn stands, couples hooking up with a unicorn, or attending those public orgies. Yeah, I think we're 1 minute in. I think it's safe to say orgy now. Like, BDSM, BDSM is kind of a slippery slope because it includes a ton of other side fetishes. So it's not like it's one of those categories that like it's a catch-all category, you know?
Everything's like, included, right?
Yeah, like you could say like, oh,
you could say it like a lot.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a misnomer because it's just there's too many things in that category. There's too many pages to turn on that book. But then the third one gets there's an argument over the third. What is the top three? It's either role play or feet, depending on which report or which site you're reading from. Now, I can respect role play.
Feet makes sense to me.
Because like that's what people talk about online, so clearly it's a winner.
Well, I feel like feet is just synonymous.
It's not a feet thing going on.
No, I just feel like you immediately think of feet when you think of a fetish. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like so they're like synonymous.
That's the dirtiest one.
I don't know. No, it's not. I don't think so. I mean, it depends what you're doing with the feet, but yeah.
We'll be right back with fetishes and more right after the theme song.
Crack open a cold box of wine or pour something cold on ice because it's the Binge-Watchers podcast.
Now, I did tell Jordan before the show started that it's going to put her on the spot because it's a steamy episode.
Just a steamy episode.
Yeah. Do you have a fetish, Jordan?
No.
Couldn't think of anything?
Like, I can't really think of anything.
Have you ever been accused of having one?
No, I don't think so. You know, I feel like Yeah, I know. I wish I was something a little bit more juicy. You know?
Tried to drag the juicy details out of Jordan. She's like,
Yeah.
people I know listen to this show. I'm not gonna give you these answers.
What about you?
Yeah, I looked up. Oh, by the way, there's a subreddit devoted to one of the fetishes that I looked up called Hydro Homies. That's in reference to aquaphilia, which is like pleasure derived from water, wetness, being in water, mostly water.
A water fetish.
Aquaphilia.
Yeah. Wow. I liked the whole, feet situation. I was listening to a video.
I knew it.
Margot
She already
Robbie.
said it. Let it slip out in the beginning.
I've also got great looking
She's a
toes,
foot
but
lady.
I'm just saying.
What's that?
No.
Something specifically about toes. All I heard.
Margot Robbie had been doing this interview for obviously Barbie, and it was really interesting because obviously there's that scene with her feet in the Barbie movie, right?
Sure, yeah.
She steps out of the shoes and her feet don't collapse. Mm-hmm. And so it obviously went like super viral, but she ended up finding out that there's a whole like website out there where you can look up actresses specifically about their feet. And she was kind of going on how she admired that about herself. And I was like, good for you, Margot Robbie. I liked that. So
okay, no shame.
Shame.
That's the point. Bringing these things into the light.
Mm-hmm.
No shame, no consequences, no judgment. There's another one called olfactoryophilia, like all factory senses, pleasure derived from odors.
Interesting.
This is a new one for me.
But
I like the water. Okay, I'm always jazzed up after going swimming, ready to rock for the rest of the day. Okay, we don't have to go into that. We can just think about it. All right, and share that with the class. But the olfactophilia, that's a new sensation for me. I'd say like in the last couple of years. I just it could be from working in kitchens, honestly, where you're producing great smells.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you're like, where are the great smells in my life? However, I will say there is a limit to the kind of smells we're talking about.
Totally.
Obviously, if you have a bacterial infection, that's not the kind of smells we're talking about. Okay.
No.
But there are some natural smells that occur with body odor and sensational areas, and that stuff's all good.
Oh, yeah. Pat's Pits, the best.
Well, okay. So she let it out, folks. So, yeah.
But both of those kind of apply to this movie, which is really interesting. I'm sure we'll dive into that in the bits. But
yeah, by the way, people are like, why are they talking about what podcast? What if they clicked on and said, what's the movie recommendation for the week? I'm smelling armpits. Oh, geez. And Jordan's like, doesn't want to confess. And they're like, what is this, like a sexual wellness podcast? Yeah. It's a society, culture, health podcast category all of a sudden. No, tonight's movie is called Dogs Don't Wear Pants. It's described online as a sexually charged thriller in which a man develops an unexpected but powerful connection with a dominatrix. Now, the dirty details, the savage stats, I helped compile for Jordan this week because she's blushing hard.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're watching this as a video, but if you're just listening.
We're already at the stats? Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get into it.
Oh, no, wait. I was so...
You were ready to
It's such a sensational episode. I skipped right over all the home video headlines.
Just went straight to the movie.
Yeah, it's fine. Go ahead.
Okay, let's do it. So we have 3 rules with Mona. Mona has her 3 rules, right? She is the main actress who is the dominatrix. Her 3 rules are: dogs don't talk, dogs don't walk on 2 legs, and dogs don't wear pants. She obviously refers to all of her clients as dogs. So we'll tie that back into some bits. The director does make a cameo, though, in the movie as one of Mona's customers. Do you know which one?
Okay. So we've seen 3 customers. The main character who becomes her dog.
Yes. And then there was
wears
2.
leather and a leather dog mask and all leathers and crawls around on all 4s and has to act like a pet while he's there. And if he breaks the rules, she definitely disciplines him like a dog. But then there's another guy who's also treated kind of like a dog. In the beginning, can you say masturbate on a podcast? Maybe. We'll find out. We'll find out how the censors like that word. So there's a guy masturbating as like her during his session, a random guy. We see him from behind, and he's only 5 seconds of screen time or whatever the Nordic film board allows to be seen. How many seconds of screen time of a guy, getting his jollies. Then the other customer we see, she actually makes a mistake because she's thinking about the main character whose name is like Joha, which must be like I don't know. From the Nordic Isles, folks. I don't know. I don't know if it's a Swedish name or a Norwegian name. It's one of those.
Joha. But yes.
Yeah. So this other customer is being burned by candles, but I guess in his sessions, she's supposed to pee to put the candles out. We see her extra hydrate to get ready for this sesh.
Right.
However, she's distracted by her feelings for the main character.
It's like the pressure of the moment too, and like what
so
she's
distracted. So then she puts him out by hand, burns her hands a little bit, and the guy, what is the guy saying? He keeps screaming like, he keeps screaming, "I'm burning, I'm burning, I'm burning!" Like I was gonna try to clarify who the director was, but my imagination is suggesting that was
my thought too. Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking. Because I mean, that's a more fun scene too. Honestly, like if you're gonna cameo in your movie, are you just gonna wank in the corner and for 5 seconds, or are you gonna be the guy going, "I'm burning, I'm burning, I'm burning,"
getting the hot wax poured all over his bod?
Yeah. A lot of nakedness.
Lots
folks,
of nakedness.
Okay? On whatever your fetish is, whatever you're into, it's in this movie. Okay, we got most of the bases covered here that are allowed by the law. Anything else, we're not, can't help you.
Krista, Kosonen, I believe is how you say it, who portrayed Mona, graduated from the Theater Academy of Helsinki, Finland. Helsinki, in Finland in 2009 after studying there for 6 years. You may have seen her as a doxy, which is a sex worker, in Blade Runner 2049, or also as the female lead in Beforeigners, HBO Nordic show about two Vikings that get put forward into time for present day also. Those are some stats. They're pretty brief, but we got into some deets.
Yeah, I wanted to focus on Mona because she's a striking figure in the movie and she obviously captivates the audience. So, I didn't realize she was in Blade Runner 2049. I went back, I looked at the still images online on her IMDb profile and I go, oh yeah, she's like one of the 3 or 4 that are in the group that gets selected out by the characters or whatever. She's there. Then Beforeigners is a show I wouldn't have recognized her actually because she looks so drastically different from her dominatrix get up in this movie. How she is a regular person after hours in this movie, and then her hair's like really long but mostly reddish in Beforeigners. So I didn't recognize her in that either. But that's fairly recent, a couple of years ago. And the concept of that show sounds really cool. Like a couple of Vikings are like deposited into like I guess what Oslo's in Norway, I think, but maybe it's in Finland. I don't know, because I guess maybe these are Finnish names, because it's a Finnish movie that we just watched. Yeah, so maybe they're all Finnish. But she goes forward with another guy. They're from like the Middle Ages, but then I think they get into like detective work or something like that in the Beforeigners show. Anyway, it's like a binge later on my playlist. Like I was meant to get around to Beforeigners, but just haven't. But now that I know it's like the same leading lady, like maybe I'll
put it at the top,
move it higher up the list.
Yeah, totally.
There's. I don't really want to talk about the headline. Oh, there's one thing. I guess I'll just talk about the one thing before we go to. We have messages. So I'll go to the messages, and I'll just include the one of them. One of them was a headline. I'll just move it into messages and whatever. Okay. First up, we have the Toxic Friends Holiday Collection, 1 of 3 Pumpkin Dwellers out. Basically, this is like all through holiday season, we're going to kick out some special merchandise. And the first one is the Pumpkin Dweller. More to come. We have Toxic Turkey and Santa Shocker. They're going to come out as the holiday season goes along. But out today, it's hot. Get it today. It's on our TeePublic site. It's on our merch site. You can get it on our website. The Pumpkin Dweller. It's basically a monster that has taken over the inside of a pumpkin, and he's stalking everybody on Halloween. It sounds like it should be a movie. I know, bro, but get it. It's in our merch store. What else is going on? Okay, one more message, and then we'll be back to the podcast. The message is, Love the Good Media is a small family-run shop of music and movie lovers. They put together subscription boxes of videos, vinyls, and video games. They have thousands of movies and genres to choose from. They also can set your musical preferences for the vinyls that you want to receive every month. They pick your style of music based on the decades. Or you can pick your console and choose your favorite type of game from over 30 types of genres of games. They also have digital codes. If you just want to play around and watch some on-demand movies, you can start watching them in seconds. Our listeners and our viewers can get 15% off with the promo code BINGE. You can also win a gift card for signing up. Visit them at lovedagainmedia.com/binge. Now back to the titillating, scandalous, steamy, shocking podcast episode of Binge-Watchers podcast already in progress. We've arrived at the favorite bits of Dogs Don't Wear Pants, which would include nobody's paying for the pants. There's no pants involved.
There's no pants. We're talking about the bits. There's bits in this movie. All of the bits. No, I like the movie. You would think, because of just like the synopsis, that there's like not a lot of complexity to this, but there truly is. And I think that's what I enjoyed about it. It was like, for one, they both have pretty prestigious careers, right? Like, she's a physical therapist and she does therapy. And then he's also a doctor, which I find super interesting. But I would say like that whole tooth scene. So essentially, what is his name again? We had just talked about it.
Juha or Jeha, something.
Juha, yes. So Juha is essentially like, they kind of crossed over some boundaries in this dominatrix world, and he clearly can't get enough of it. And this is where I do think
she's talking about the movie that's like in like his second or third act. It's towards the end of the movie.
It is.
Yeah, he's like in her apartment.
I can see why they want to consider this a thriller, because I truly was like almost at the edge of my seat the entire time. So he's already, as he goes to visit her, like it gets obviously more and more intense, right? He loves to be strangled, and for it to get more to the limit every single time. And he is clearly to this point of where he's like doing really risky, like
right
really
to the edge
behavior. And not even that too, just like following around, and not in like a stalker way, but just to be able to like get her to commit to essentially seeing him one last time, and to get her to bring him to the edge. And so she convinces him by allowing her to do whatever she wanted to him, physical pain wise, so that she would choke him out like one last
She wanted
time.
to try something she's never got to try before.
And yes.
Yanks a tooth.
Decides to yank a tooth. And I just was, I don't know. I did not see that coming at all. I'm like, holy cow, she is, yeah, it was just wild. But it's
we
just,
should say, I mean, she was mortified when he almost dies at one point. She was mortified.
She was
crossed the line.
right.
But she brought him back from the brink of death. And then he goes, strangle me some more. Which is that's one of my favorite bits.
Yeah.
Another hard-hitting question, Jordan. Have you ever been legally dead?
No.
Oh, dang.
You would think so, just because I'm so risk prone, but no, not legally dead. That would, like what she was experiencing in that movie with him, and in that line of work would be absolutely terrifying. And then for her to just be pounding on his chest to try to get him to have like a heart rhythm, I could understand why she might not want him to come back. But I mean, he was relentless. Yeah. And then the end, I don't know if I want to go into the deets, if you're going to go into some of the deets for that, but I kind of want to spoil it.
I got some things written down. You didn't ask me if I've ever been legally dead, so I won't talk about being dead.
No, will you tell me, have you ever been legally dead?
Yeah,
No.
actually, like about 3 times. So the most recent one was like I was at the beach and I got a hit and run over. Like I was a hit and run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you were like out?
Oh yeah, I believe I left my human form. I believe I left my human shell and traveled very far away. And then made a conscious decision to return.
Oh, wow.
And then woke up bloody and beaten and confused because I was like, oh, yeah, lots of time has passed. People are calling ambulances. Then getting looked at the emergency room, right? Getting the head scan, the CAT scan, all that other stuff.
No
but then
way.
missing like 3 or 4 hours of time.
That's wild.
I think what happened was, I literally think my machine ejected me to keep me alive. It doesn't make any sense, but I think it like shocked me to preserve me. I don't even know if that makes any kind of like medical sense, but like I literally think it happened so that I could be alive again, which it sounds pretty trippy, but that's the only thing I can wrap my head around.
That's so crazy.
And the one before it was I made a mistake in college and I almost killed myself because I drank too much. I had like alcohol poisoning, and again, I woke up and it was bodily fluids everywhere, and I was just like, oh, like great. But that was pretty. Like this guy says, strangle me some more, and he's like right on the line of being completely dead. Like that was a mistake where it could have easily just accidentally killed myself in college, right?
Totally. Yeah. I've had like one of those moments, but I don't think I was like,
But I mean, this guy's making like a conscious, like I'm talking about accidental, pushing things too far. He continues to make a conscious choice because he's trying to return to like the living memory of his dead wife or something.
Right.
And I guess spoiler alert, his wife drowns.
Yes.
And then he wants to, but he almost drowned himself. So he wants to return to that asphyxiated state, which is like the last memory of his dead wife.
Yeah. He gets like transported back to this like made believe moment that he gets to be with his wife in these strangulation
scenarios.
Moments.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too. It's not like he's getting hooked on getting peed on.
So he has the olfactory thing too, because he has a bottle of her perfume.
Yes.
And he sprays it in her clothes. At one point, he has the dominatrix wearing her dress over her leather outfit. And the craziest thing he does is he sprays the perfume or fragrance like directly into his own nostrils in his hotel room or apartment or whatever. I guess it's like an apartment, but they look very sterile, like hotel rooms.
Yeah. That is not the craziest thing that he does. The craziest thing that he does is go out with the music teacher. Gives her
that's his attempt. That's his attempt to like do what everybody else would think is the right thing, right? To be social and communicate, and she's just not good enough. He's like, choke me. And she's like,
yeah, she's like, laughing the whole time, not even at him, but that might be like her nervous.
That's where you want to scream at the screen and be like, lady, master your sexuality and get over yourself.
Yeah,
except she did say she gets turned on by music, which is probably another thing.
Okay, you're right.
I'm sure that's sensual too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then he's asking her to choke him and she's not doing it hard enough. So
well, and talk about being choked out. At one point, somebody asked him, like, what happened to you? Why are you wearing the what do they call that? I don't know, a neck brace thing. He's wearing a neck brace. And he's like, well, I got strangled. And she's like, oh, yeah, well, what are the details? What happened? He's like, well, I kind of strangled myself, was part of like he had to explain, you know what I mean? That he was
involved. Asked for it.
Yeah. But he's like, well, I kind of wanted to be strangled.
Yeah, it was like not by accident or something. I don't know. He said it
the
really
most
weird.
Awkward how you doing conversation in a hallway. Like, oh, there's Dr. Chua. We haven't seen him in a while, huh? How you doing? You know what I mean? You know, like at the holiday conversation with your family, you're like, oh yeah, things are going pretty good. Got strangled nearly to death. I wanted it. Look at these are the results. You know? My other favorite bit to sum it up is like at one point Mona realizes she likes him, and it's kind of early on. And that scares her because she's like, oh, it's not just a customer dom. It's not like a sub-dom relationship.
Right.
Like she's going to break the rules because she's actually attracted to him and she doesn't seem to have relationships. So it's kind of like, can they fit in each other's worlds? I don't know. And then like it happens twice. First, she recognizes the feeling. And then towards the end, he becomes part of her world and gets accepted by her into that special world, right?
Yeah, that was my favorite part. I loved that at the end.
Yeah, so we think that so this is the craziest part of this movie is that these movies usually never, ever, ever, ever have a happy ending.
Yeah.
It might work out for one character, but not both. I was certain that the guy was gonna die in his pursuit of pleasure, that he was gonna die.
I think, well, I thought when he wasn't, like when like the last and final time, like she's just yanked out his tooth and she tries to choke him out, right? She obviously backs off because she's feeling like he's trying to literally kill himself, and she's like, I'm not about that life.
But see, this is why they had the backstory of like the doctor knowing almost how he can take it so far. And you said she's a therapist, so she has EMT training, right? So you buy the fact that she can resuscitate him, you know?
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, and I don't know. I kind of went the other way where I was like, oh, I'm really hoping that they can find their happy ending together, right? Because he starts consoling her in that moment where she's like breaking down, being like, you came here for the wrong reasons. Like, I'm not going to try to kill you or help you kill yourself. And when he like consoles her, you see that they're kind of on some common ground, and she gets up. And I was so upset that he left. And then when she came back around the corner and she was like holding the dress that he had essentially gifted her in one of the sessions, you know, that's like kind of covered in this perfume that he had her wear, he was smelling it. Like, I wanted them to have a moment. And so it was so sad when he leaves and she calls him, you know, she's like, bad dog, you know, or, you know, whatever. And I was like, darn it, like they're never going to have their moment. And it was so cool to have that at the very end.
There is one tragic part of the story, though, because the movie does take the time to show you, like, what happens if a father ignores his teenage daughter.
Yeah.
The decisions she starts to make. So his daughter's getting ready for a music recital. As Jordan already said, like, at one point he's on a date with the music teacher because the daughter wanted to set that up because she sees the years of him neglecting all his relationships, even hers. But she has a recital. She's a drummer. There's a boy that likes her. But he has a motorcycle, of course. Yeah. He's got a dirt bike. And I'm like, oh, man. So she's going to start a series of bad decisions that are going to follow her to college. And it's his fault because he just ignored her for half the movie to hang out with his dom. You know what I mean? Like, you know, the only thing we can really condemn. I'm not condemning any of the sexual behavior, man. I'm not a judge, jury, executioner. The only thing that I'm condemning that might be judgmental is the treatment of the daughter goes kind of awry, like halfway through the movie. And I don't feel like it was reconciled, that one element.
No, that wasn't. There was no, like, loose ends did not get tied up with his relationship with her. Essentially, she's just like, screw you, Dad, you know?
Yeah.
And, okay. Yeah. I don't know.
So, no home video headlines tonight, folks, but you heard about Toxic Friends. You heard the savage stats from this movie. I think you're all going to go watch this movie. I know it, but we've arrived at rating. Our rating system is simple. Binge now, got to watch it now, binge it later, get to it eventually, but, you know, or binge never. You can't get the 2 hours back of your life. You just stay away from it. Jordan Savage, where do you land with Dogs Don't Wear Pants?
This is a binge now for me, like maybe one of my favorite movies we've watched all year, to be completely honest.
I don't know if I believe you because you said that like 3 times now.
We've been watching some fun movies lately, but this is it. We didn't even talk about how like incredibly beautiful it really is too, with all of like the very, very intentional colors that they use, and there's lots of lighting. And then there's not a lot of like audio component to this movie. So it's just like really interesting to watch with those two standpoints. And there's complexity to it. We're not watching just, it's not even like, it's such a good story line and so complex, and I loved it. So, John, what'd you think?
Okay, you ready for this?
I'm ready.
It's a binge later on my rating scale for one specific reason. For me, the tempo is a little bit too slow. I like faster stories. Mm-hmm. This is definitely a movie you got to pay attention to. Mm-hmm. You got to devote your attention. You have to be an active listener, dedicated viewer. I agree with her, the way she described the tones. You know, the visuals, you could turn the sound off and you would still be able to follow the story, which is like a tenet of filmmaking. If you can follow the story without the audio cues, then it's a film that stands on its own. That's literally the only reason. I don't agree with the beats, the tempo, the length of the movie. I would shorten everything. However, that would definitely take away the thriller aspect that you were talking about earlier. And it's on a horror movie platform. Like, one of the most available reasons to watch the movie is it's on Shudder. I don't know where else it is, but they're a horror movie platform, so I guess. Yeah. Again, obviously, Johnny Spoiler's a weird dude because we've already established that these movies are just like popcorn for me. Like, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't like, oh, thriller, okay. Like, just another freaking Sunday at the movies. Like, anyway.
Right. It's like me and my true crime, but
yeah, that's why it would be a binge now, except for I can't handle the speed of the movie. I want it to move faster. That's all. And I think if it moved, maybe this is an editorial gripe. Like if I'm like talking about the editing of the film, just because like maybe I think if it moved a little faster, more people would be into it. I don't know. But I'm there for the the S&M visuals, the club lighting, and also the dance sequence at the end.
The best.
Killer.
Yeah. That whole club scene was so good.
We ended up at the last minute getting some voicemail submissions for our fan service segment, and we've been asking for, like, what do they think are the weird movies? I don't know how to retrieve things off Instagram that are like technical files. Like, it's really hard to rip things out of the apps, you know? So I'm going to hold it up to my microphone and play it that way, the most ghetto way possible. The most analog, the most, like, not technical at all, you know? So, but this is from Shawnee West. This is his list of weird movies, and I'll react to some of the titles. So try to listen to at least one of the titles, and you tell me what you think of that movie or whatever, and then I'll react to this guy. Here we go.
Cool with the Shotgun, River's Edge, Eraserhead, Blue Velvet, Mandy, Rubber. Oh, and there's the show Masters of Horror on Tubi that has a few funny, awesomely bad episodes.
Okay, he mentioned a lot of stuff. Like, a lot of people like Eraserhead. Go back and see that. That's considered a classic. Blue Velvet. It's kind of a weird movie. I mean, at one point, Dennis Hopper is like sucking back oxygen from an oxygen tank that gets carried around. And that's another twisted relationship movie. So if that's kind of your thing, get it. Hobo with the Shotgun is Rutger Hauer. And it's kind of like a pseudo alternate future where everybody's kind of like the games of, it's kind of like, remember the Judge Dredd movie we watched and how everything's like kind of grimy and everybody's at each other's throats. It's kind of like that shitty future like that. Or just downtown LA on a Thursday. But Masters of Horror is a great show. That's where they got a bunch of horror directors and had them, you know, do like episodes of this anthology TV show where they're kind of like mini movies, like an hour or less. Did seasons of that. And I guess now that according to the fan, Shawnee West, they've cropped up on Tubi. So take a look at that. The most inviting think of his whole list is that people are just kind of dipping their toes in these weird waters. Probably go for Eraserhead or Blue Velvet. The other things are like definitely for like more like film aficionados, like you know what I mean? Like if you're starting to film buff out, and you're building your film muscle, then you go for the other ones.
I'm still a novice, you know.
You're a veteran now. You're a veteran. You flexed. You developed the chip on your shoulder now. Like you got like your own pedigree of like what movies to watch, not to watch.
So funny.
I love when you get super enthusiastic. We're like, this is the best thing that we watched on the podcast all year. I'm gonna track it. That's the third time I've heard it.
You know what? I gotta be a little bit more careful. But no, this was my favorite. It was my favorite.
Staff picks. If you watch something that you want to recommend to the audience that isn't the movie of the week. Oh, also backtrack. I'm like way ahead of I'm just like ahead of every segment. Shawnee West, congratulations. You'll get a Voodoo Fandango gift card to download some movies. We'll send that over to you to your email. So keep those weird movie recommends coming in. Give us those voicemails. You have a chance to win a gift card. Now moving on. If you want to recommend something to the audience, Jordan, that's not the movie we watched, do you have anything?
I watched some true crime stuff just to get caught up on some new seasons. That was the Murdoch murders.
Just to calm down, you know, just to kick back.
Relax. A little light watch before bed. No
casual murder TV.
It was one of those moments too, you know, for people who have partners and you watch something without them, and then it's a situation.
Oh, is it a show that you're supposed to watch with them and then you cheated and watched?
I was unaware, but I television cheated and I was in big trouble. So shame.
It's definitely like an unwritten couples rule, at least in the United States. Like you're watching a show together, or did you think this was a show we weren't going to watch together and you watched it? Or you were like, just couldn't help yourself.
That's why he was more. I was like, what? I didn't know that this one was important to you. Like, it's not like I haven't watched like Witcher yet. And I'm like, that makes me think that's one that I can't watch without you.
Is The Witcher? Like season 3 or whatever?
Yeah, the newer seasons. So, but, you know, I learned.
What was the show?
That I watched this time around?
No, the one that upset your beau.
Oh, yeah. It was like the season 2 of the Murdoch murders. And it just kind of like goes through really
That's from the BBC. Is that a BBC show?
It's on Netflix, I'm pretty sure.
But it's British,
I don't know
right?
Who creates it?
British?
No, I don't know. Not at all.
It's not what I'm thinking of then. I'm thinking of like a detective show. All right.
No. Yeah, it's good. It was good. It was entertaining. So, yeah. Did you watch anything?
Yeah, like I did watch Notting Hill, which is a romantic comedy with Hugh Grant, Julia Roberts. And she plays a spoiled actress that falls in love with the wet behind the ears owner of a bookstore down in Notting Hill, England. Across the pond. Don't know why I'm speaking in a southern accent when I'm talking about England.
Yeah.
Just so I feel like a bumpkin who doesn't know his movies from his other movies. You know, it's not as good as I remembered. I mean, this was like my third time watching it. I'm a big fan of Hugh Grant. I love that he's like such a misanthrope. Like he in real life too. Like he can only handle people to a certain point, and he can't. And he's really funny, but he's got like scathing humor. Like he'll burn you bad.
Yeah,
he burns a lot of his co-stars in the interviews that he does, and it's just so great.
But hilarious.
He's like the king of those romantic comedies from like the 90s, right?
I remember.
But there's some good. I mean, there's like a who's who of British actors in there. And again, I didn't write them down because I hadn't planned on talking about Notting Hill. It just kind of slipped out.
Yeah.
The other thing that I watched is Star Wars Ashoka. Okay, so that's like Star Wars plus Game of Thrones plus Ewoks Battle for Endor. Why am I bringing up the Ewoks, the second Ewoks movie? This is why. Because that played up a lot of the magic in Star Wars. Usually Star Wars plays up a lot of the science.
Right.
But like the witches and the weirdness and the magical elements, they're like coming to the forefront in Star Wars Ashoka. And they also did that in the Ewok movies. It was more about the magic and stuff as opposed to like the technology. And I love the sword fights, man. I want as many laser fights as we can with the freaking Jedi and whatnot, whoever they are, whatever they want to call themselves. But they brought characters from some of the novels that were canon that are no longer canon, but they're kind of rewriting some of the elements from all these old Star Wars novels into the main Star Wars show, right? So there's this blue-skinned general. His name is Thrawn, and he's like from a race of like blue-skinned aliens. I don't know, but he's like runs one of the Imperial part of their fleet. What is I don't know why, but my nose like runs sometimes when we podcast. Figure that out. So if it's not your thing, folks, enjoy it. He like, he's coming back or whatever. And they talked about him in the cartoon Star Wars Rebels, all this stuff with Mandalorian. It's all coming together. But Ashoka is supposed to be like an apprentice that Darth Vader had, which is like that. If you're like a old school Star Wars fan, you're like, that's all BS. That was never created. But then like in the new cartoons, they're like, oh yeah, he had, Anakin before his Darth Vader, but trained a Jedi, blah, blah, blah. None of that matters. All I'm saying is like this show, like the characters are all kind of like betraying each other and kind of they have like hidden agendas. Even like the bad guys aren't really working together. You can tell that they're going to betray each other. And the settings are kind of more medieval. I mean, like all the Jedis in this one are wearing like armor and stuff.
Sounds so cool. I would like that.
Yeah, it sounds, again, if you like the magic. I mean, I like the Ewoks movies was cool. I mean, they literally fought like some troll dude who had like a witch wife in the second Ewoks movie, but I mean, this one is like dark like that, which is unusual for Star Wars. So I kind of appreciate it. Although supposedly in the ratings, it's not doing well, whatever. Just bring me the laser sword fights. That's all I want.
Keep them coming.
What else? Usually I don't endorse giant franchises. They're like, it's endorsing Star Wars. I'm a Jedi kid. I don't know what to tell you. My notes now say wrap it up, and we've been here almost an hour according to the StreamYard, the little streamy thing that's clocking us as we record. So I had Jordan pick the last weird movie of the month, and I gave her like a slew of titles. I didn't tell her at first that, like, by the way, 3 or 4 of those movies are made by the same filmmaker. Honestly, I think his name is Dubois. Like Quentin Dubois. If I'm saying it wrong, I'm sorry, dude. You're one of my favorite filmmakers. He's in like my top 5 directors all time, actually. And he's a modern filmmaker. He's still alive and he's still making movies from France, of all places. He made a movie called Mandibles, which is about like 2 losers trying to like train and monetize a mutant fly. And there's many other elements, but I don't want to wreck it, right? It'll be a good segue moving on to our other horrific things that we're going to watch for Halloween season, which is around the corner here.
Yay!
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. Stuff. Yeah. Weird month. It's been a good one. It's been a good one.
I can't wait for Jordan to say next week that
it's my favorite movie.
That, yeah. This is the favorite movie that we've watched all year.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
Ooh, dang. Because I got under her skin, she's intentionally going to say next week that I don't like this movie at all. That's what's going to happen.
I would never. The worst is when I know you like it and then I don't like it. I'm like, oh man, now I got to say no. But those are the ones that typically grow on me. Or ones that I say binge later or never. And then I'm like, it's the one I think about forever.
Yeah. Well, to be continued.
Yeah.